In the heart of New York City, the towering glass headquarters of a billion-dollar tech company stood like a monument to innovation and wealth. Inside, the air buzzed with urgency. Executives in sharp suits rushed between meetings. Engineers debated over whiteboards, and assistants carried tablets stacked with reports. Yet, beneath the shine and prestige of the company, there was a quieter world, one that went unnoticed by nearly everyone. Down the hallways after hours, when the boardrooms emptied and the lights dimmed, a woman named Angela Carter worked silently with her cleaning cart. Angela was a single mother, a black woman who had spent most of her life balancing two jobs just to keep food on the table for her only son. She scrubbed the same polished floors that billionaires walked across, her hands roughened by years of labor, her back aching from endless nights of bending and lifting. No one knew her name. She was invisible to them all. But Angela's pride, her strength, and her hope rested in her son, Malik. At just 17, Malik wasn't like other kids his age. He didn't care about sneakers or video games. His world revolved around numbers, patterns, and possibilities. Teachers often whispered that he was a genius, a mind far beyond his years. He had a way of looking at problems differently, seeing solutions others missed. But genius didn't pay the rent. And genius didn't get him access to the high-rise offices where billion-dollar ideas were born. Most nights, Malik would wait for his mother in the lobby, his notebook clutched tightly in his hands. While Angela cleaned, Malik sketched algorithms and equations, filling page after page with ideas that seemed impossible for someone so young. He dreamed of one day walking through those same glass doors not as a cleaner's son, but as someone who belonged. What Malik didn't know was that fate was already arranging the moment that would test his brilliance and change everything. One rainy evening, Angela almost didn't take Malik with her. He had exams coming up, and she wanted him to rest. But Malik insisted. He said he could focus better at the company lobby than at their tiny apartment where the neighbors argued all night. Reluctantly, she agreed. With his hood pulled over his head, Malik sat near the glass doors, his pen scratching against the paper as the storm rumbled outside. Upstairs, in the executive boardroom, panic filled the air. The company was stuck. Their latest software, an ambitious project meant to revolutionize logistics, was failing. Millions of dollars had already been spent, and the code still had a fatal flaw. Entire teams of engineers had been working around the clock, but the error kept crashing the system. Every second cost the company money. Every hour chipped away at investor confidence. The CEO, Richard Holloway, a man known for his sharp mind and sharper temper, stood at the head of the table, glaring at the projection screen. "We're burning money faster than we can count it," he snapped. "This bug is costing us millions every single day. If we don't fix it, the $100 million we invested goes down the drain." His voice carried the weight of desperation. Downstairs, Malik overheard bits of conversation as employees hurried past, their words sharp with stress. Critical failure, losses, system crash. His curiosity burned. Malik had always been fascinated by complex problems, and he couldn't ignore what he was hearing. He knew he didn't belong in that world, yet something inside him whispered that he might understand what the experts couldn't. When Angela finished her shift on that floor, Malik followed quietly behind her, notebook still in hand. He paused by the half-open boardroom door, eyes scanning the messy diagrams and code on the screen. His pulse quickened. He recognized the problem instantly. In that moment, Malik realized he was staring at the challenge of a lifetime. Malik's heart raced as he stood frozen at the doorway. His mother tugged at his arm, whispering, "Come on, Malik, don't stare. We don't belong here." But Malik couldn't look away. The equations flashing on the screen weren't random to him. They were patterns, puzzles waiting to be solved. Inside the boardroom, frustrated voices clashed. Engineers argued over syntax errors, misplaced lines of code, and system architecture flaws. Malik's pen twitched in his hand. He scribbled in his notebook, testing an idea. Within seconds, he wrote a clean solution that rerouted the loop causing the crash. His chest tightened. Could it really be this simple? Angela noticed his intensity and frowned. "Malik, we have to go." Her voice was tired, worn from years of working in places that reminded her she didn't belong. She didn't want her son, to feel that same sting. But Malik, trembling with excitement, whispered, "Mom, I think I can fix this." Angela shook her head, almost laughing through her exhaustion. "Baby, these are the smartest people in the building. Let's not." Before she could finish, the boardroom door swung open. A frazzled engineer stormed out, mumbling angrily to himself. Malik, clutching his notebook, suddenly blurted, "I think I know the problem." The engineer stopped, blinking down at the skinny teenager with oversized glasses. "What did you just say?" His tone was dismissive, almost annoyed. Angela stepped forward, ready to apologize, but Malik didn't back down. He held out his notebook, pointing to his neat scrawl of equations. "Your system isn't broken. You're looping your data in the wrong direction. If you invert this function here and streamline the mapping, it'll stop crashing." The man stared at the page, then back at Malik. For a moment, there was silence. Then, with a scoff, he muttered, "Kid, this isn't a math club problem," and walked away. Angela sighed, tugging Malik's sleeve again. But Malik knew deep inside. He was right. And soon, someone far more important was going to see it's Malik, and his mother turned to leave. A commanding voice echoed from inside the boardroom. "Wait! Bring that boy in here." Everyone froze. The CEO, Richard Holloway himself, had heard Malik's bold interruption. His steel-gray eyes studied the teenager with an intensity that made Angela's stomach twist. She immediately tried to shield her son. "Mr. Holloway, I'm so sorry. He didn't mean to." Richard raised a hand to silence her. "Relax. I just want to hear what he has to say." His tone was sharp, but not unkind. The engineers inside shifted uncomfortably, clearly embarrassed that a janitor's son had caught the CEO's attention. Malik's palms were damp as he stepped into the room, clutching his notebook like a lifeline. The projection screen flickered with endless lines of code, graphs, and failure logs. Richard gestured toward it. "All right, genius. Tell me what you see." The challenge in his voice made Malik swallow hard, but once his eyes locked on the code, everything else faded away. His confidence grew with every word. "You're looping data through two different pathways," Malik explained, pointing at the highlighted section. "That creates an infinite cycle that forces the system to crash. If you invert the function here," he circled a spot in his notebook, "and adjust the mapping protocol, the data will flow smoothly instead of colliding. The system will stabilize." A stunned silence filled the room. The engineers exchanged uneasy glances. One of them scoffed. "That's oversimplified. He doesn't understand the complexity." But Richard leaned closer, his gaze fixed on Malik's scribbled equations. His jaw tightened. "Run it," he ordered. The engineers hesitated, then nervously began implementing Malik's adjustment. Fingers flew across keyboards. Within moments, the system that had failed for weeks suddenly stabilized. The screen stopped flashing red warnings. It held steady. Gasps rippled across the room. Malik had done in seconds what hundreds of experts couldn't do in months. Angela gripped her son's hand, her eyes wide. For the first time, she saw the room looking at Malik not as a janitor's boy, but as someone extraordinary. The room erupted in disbelief. Engineers who had spent sleepless nights pored over the results, double-checking logs and cross-referencing reports. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The system was stable. Weeks of failure, millions of wasted dollars, resolved by a 17-year-old in seconds. Angela stood frozen, almost afraid to breathe. She had cleaned these floors for years, invisible, unheard, her son quietly waiting in lobbies. Now, Malik was the center of the room, his voice the one everyone leaned toward. Richard Holloway leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing as if to measure the boy's soul. "What's your name?" he asked. "Malik Carter," Malik replied, his voice soft but steady. The CEO smirked faintly. "Malik Carter, you just saved this company $100 million. The weight of his words crashed over the boardroom. Engineers lowered their eyes, ashamed. Executives shifted uncomfortably, knowing what this meant. Angela squeezed her son's shoulder protectively. "Mr. Holloway, he didn't mean to interfere. He was just waiting for me. Please don't punish him." Her words trembled with old fears, years of being dismissed or reprimanded for things beyond her control. But Richard's expression softened slightly. Punish him? Mrs. Carter, your son just did what none of my best-paid experts could. He turned back to Malik, his tone sharp again. Tell me something, Malik. Was this luck, or do you truly understand what you just solved? Malik adjusted his glasses and held up his notebook. Pages filled with algorithms, concepts, and ideas that spill far beyond the problem at hand. I understand it, and I've been working on similar problems for a while, just for fun. A murmur swept through the executives. For fun, one whispered, almost offended. Malik nodded without shame. Math and coding. They just make sense to me. Richard tapped the table, his eyes gleaming. Interesting. Angela felt her chest tighten. Something was happening, something bigger than either of them had imagined. Richard rose from his chair, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room. Gentlemen, he said, addressing his executives, you've just been shown up by a teenager. Let that sink in. His words stung, but no one dared argue. Then he turned back to Malik, curiosity burning in his eyes. Tell me, what do you want to do with that brain of yours? Malik hesitated, glancing at his mother. Angela shook her head slightly, silently begging him not to dream too big in front of these powerful people. But Malik spoke anyway, his voice steady. I want to build things that matter. Solve problems that make life easier. Not just for companies like yours, for everyone. The CEO tilted his head, studying him as though Malik were some rare discovery. You've got ambition. I like that. Then, unexpectedly, he looked at Angela. And you must be proud. Angela swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. I am, she whispered. Her voice cracked with equal parts pride and fear. She had always told Malik the world wouldn't give him chances. Yet here he stood, earning one in the most unlikely of places. But not everyone in the room was impressed. One of the senior engineers scoffed, arms crossed tightly. With all due respect, Mr. Holloway, we can't seriously be taking advice from a janitor's kid. He doesn't have credentials. He doesn't even have a diploma yet. A few others nodded in agreement, resentment simmering in their eyes. Angela bristled at the insult, but Malik remained calm. You don't need credentials to see the truth. Either the system works now, or it doesn't. That should answer your question. His words silenced the room. Even Richard raised an eyebrow, impressed by the boy's composure. For the first time in years, Angela felt a spark of something she had buried. Hope. Richard leaned forward, tapping the polished table. Malik Carter, I think we need to talk about your future. The boardroom air was thick with tension. Some executives were intrigued, others visibly irritated, but all eyes stayed locked on Richard and the boy who had just turned their world upside down. Malik shifted nervously under the weight of their stares. He wasn't used to being noticed like this, and a part of him still wondered if he even belonged in the room. Richard broke the silence. Here's the truth. This company was about to drown, and you threw us a lifeline. That's not something I can ignore. He paced slowly, his voice steady but commanding. But brilliance needs shaping. Raw talent without the right direction is wasted. I won't let that happen to you. Angela's chest tightened. Mr. Holloway, with all due respect, Malik is still a kid. He has school, he has... Richard raised his hand. I'm not suggesting he skip education. I'm suggesting we accelerate it. Full scholarship, mentorship with my top engineers, access to every resource this company has. In return, he works with us, learns from the best, builds with the best. The room buzzed. Some executives whispered in disbelief. Others protested under their breath. This is absurd, one muttered. He hasn't earned it. Angela's eyes filled with conflict. She had spent years cleaning the halls of this building, reminding her son to stay humble, to keep his head down, to survive. Now, this CEO was offering Malik a future beyond anything she had dared to dream. But what if it was too much, too fast? Malik looked at her, his eyes shining with determination. Mom, this is what I've been waiting for. Please, let me try. Her throat tightened. She wanted to protect him from disappointment, from a world that had never been kind to them. Yet she also saw the fire in his eyes, the same fire that had carried him through nights of scribbling equations while she mopped floors. Richard extended his hand across the table. "So, Malik, are you ready to change the world with us?" Malik stared at the CEO's hand, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The weight of the moment pressed on him. His mother's weary eyes, the skeptical glares of the engineers, the chance that might never come again. Slowly, with a breath that carried every hope he'd ever held, he reached out and shook Richard Halloway's hand. The room buzzed with shock. Some clapped reluctantly. Others exchanged doubtful glances. But Richard's voice cut through the noise. "You all saw what happened tonight. Remember it. Sometimes brilliance comes from the most unexpected places. And if any of you can't handle that, this company may not be the place for you." His words silenced every protest. Angela felt tears sting her eyes. She had walked into this building countless nights as a cleaner, her son waiting quietly in the lobby. Never had she imagined leaving it as the mother of a boy who just saved a billion-dollar company. She pressed Malik's hand to her chest, whispering, "I'm so proud of you." From that night forward, Malik's life changed. The company gave him access to labs and mentors. His ideas, once scribbled in old notebooks, were now tested on cutting-edge systems. Stories of the janitor's son who solved a $100 million problem spread like wildfire across the industry, sparking admiration and disbelief. But through it all, Malik never forgot the long nights sitting in lobbies, waiting for his mother, or the sacrifices Angela made. While executives praised his genius, Malik would still visit her during her shifts, offering to push the mop, reminding her that no success could erase where he came from. 1 year later, at a major press conference, Richard introduced Malik as the youngest lead innovator in the company's history. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Malik simply smiled, his voice steady. "I'm here today because my mother never stopped believing in me, even when the world didn't see me. This is her victory as much as mine." The room erupted in applause. And for Angela, standing quietly in the crowd, it was the first time in her life she truly felt seen.